Speaker Mike Johnson sent House members home for their summer recess a day early instead of holding votes on matters related to Jeffrey Epstein and releasing the files. I asked him about that, as well as what he thinks of President Trump's often repeated assertion that all of this is a hoax. Jeffrey Epstein, has it ground the House of Representatives to a halt? That is the public perception.
I think the Democrats are working really hard to make that the public perception, but it's not true. I made the case many times today, and I have over this week. The House Republicans are united on this. We all want full disclosure, maximum disclosure. Many of us have been intellectually consistent about that from the beginning, and nothing has changed in that regard. The president himself is there as well. There's no daylight between us and the White House, and he says he wants all credible evidence to be put out there for the American people to make their own conclusions, and they're working on that. The problem they have is that much of what is referred to loosely as the Epstein files is under seal by the courts. And so you got to have the Department of Justice go in and request the release, for example, of the grand jury testimony.
That was denied today by one Florida judge because it's a very difficult, delicate process.
It is, and there's a reason for that. I'm a former litigator of federal courts. I mean, the grand jury process is jealously guarded, and a lot of the material that comes out of there cannot be carefully evaluated by people because there's no cross-examination in a grand jury hearing.
No.
I mean, none of the evidence has to be corroborated. It's not a full trial setting. So a lot of allegations can be made in a situation like that, where if the public just viewed it that way, they might skew it one way or the other. So it's something in our system that has traditionally been protected. The judges are cautious about that, understand that. But at the same time, this matter, I think, is an unusual one. It merits, there's so much public attention regarding this, and the allegations are so dastardly. I mean, just evil acts. The people deserve to know, and so that's why they're pressing for it.
And to the point, when the Trump Justice Department said there were more than 1,000 victims, for people who knew this case very, very well, did a lot of investigative work on it, that number surprised them. High number.
Yeah.
Meaning that, to their minds, investigative reporters and others, there have to be accomplices, uncharged accomplices, and that aspect of justice is still missing.
Yes, and it's of great concern to us. I mean, we want full transparency. We want everybody who is involved in any way with the Epstein evils, let's call it what it was, to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. We want the full weight of the law on their heads.
But when the Justice Department said in that same two-page memo, there's no reason to pursue further prosecutions, many said, how can those two things be properly aligned?
These are good questions. I don't know. I've never seen the Epstein evidence. It wasn't in my lane. But I have the same concern and question that a lot of people do. And look, I think the president
This is
does
not a
as well.
hoax, in other words.
Oh, it's not a hoax. Of course not. I mean, there are real victims here. But that's part of the delicate, the balance that's being done here is, I tried to explain in my press conference this week, man, we want full disclosure. If I had these things in my possession, I would have put them out a long time ago. But I would also have been very careful to protect the innocent. It's the standard in law enforcement, in the courts, and in government agencies that you do protect the innocent. Victims, for example, of sex trafficking and horrific crimes, we don't want their names exposed because they would be subjected to more harm. And so you have to be careful in how you do that. But at the same time, maximum transparency, all credible evidence, we have to keep pushing for that.
We're going to move on, but I want to read you three quotes. One from Ralph Norman, Republican, South Carolina. The public's not going to let this die, and rightfully so. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California. The question is, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the rich and powerful protecting men, or are you on the side of young girls and America's children? Last quote, Tom Massey. I think, Kentucky Republican, I think it is a watershed moment for the Speaker and the House and the President. Evaluate those three for me.
Well, I talked to Ralph Norman about 10 minutes ago before I walked in here with you, and he and I agree on this matter. I agree with what he said. With regard to Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey, I would say, if you're so concerned, why didn't you bring your discharge petition at any time in the last 4 years? Remember, President Biden and his DOJ had these files for 4 years. Neither of those guys said a word about it. Thomas Massey is suggesting that this is some sort of watershed moment. We are all on the same page trying to advance the truth, full truth and transparency. And the idea that he's suddenly so concerned about it is curious to me. He waited until President Trump was elected to bring
Hypocritical?
this. Seems that way to me.
Scott MacFarlane is back with me here at the table. Willie James Inman also joins us from the North Lawn of the White House. Scott, the Speaker told me it's not in his lane, or wasn't in his lane. It certainly is now, and it has ground the House to something of a halt. That is a fact.
They had to leave early for their August district work period because things couldn't get done anymore. And it was all being gummed up by Epstein-related matters. Not so much just the House of Representatives, but the Rules Committee, through which everything goes to get to the floor of the U.S. House that's meritorious.
And when he says, if I had it in my possession, I would have released it long ago, that's a signal to the White House that this pressure is building, not going away.
And it's a weird coalition that is formed that really has jammed up the Congress. It's not just Thomas Massie. It's not just Democrats. There's this unique, one-of-a-kind coalition of conservatives who have been pushing for Epstein files for years. Think Marjorie Taylor Greene. Think of Ralph Norman. And the progressives who are, in some cases, agitating or advocating for more transparency, potentially for political reasons. So you've got them all mashed together in this one-of-a-kind group that is blockading things happening in the U.S. House. And Major, this is appropriation season. This is a time when you fund things. It's a big time of year not to be in Washington.
Right. And Willie, James Inman, to you on the North Lawn of the White House, when the Speaker tells me everyone's on the same page, it doesn't sound that way.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't, Major. I think you're right to point that out because the president has called this a hoax. He's called those who are looking for more information within his own party troublemakers. This is really a problem that is not going away for this president, although the White House is trying its best to divert attention away to other bits of news, the news with what the president has called the Russia hoax, for instance, and the allegations that somehow former President Barack Obama committed treason with wanting more details released about what happened with the 2016 election. Look, this White House really knows that it has a problem on its hands. Remember, the president promised, essentially during the campaign, to release more information when it comes to things that people believe are conspiracy theories, with anything related to JFK, MLK, also Epstein files. The president was asked about that, and he said he wanted to see those files released. And the White House is really dealing with a problem, some would say, of its own making, Major.
Willie, James Inman at the White House. Scott MacFarlane here at the desk. I appreciate it very much.